Oh, hey, you! Want to host your website for free? Come on then. So there always comes a time where you've built an app, or you've built a side project, or you've simply built a portfolio site as you're learning to code, and you want to host it, you want to put it out there. Well, what options are there? There are a few options, and some of them say they're free, but are they really? Usually not. And what I'm going to do is show you some of the methods that I use and some of the places that I use to host my websites. Two of the main ones that I use is GitHub Pages and Netlify. Netlify being the one that I've used for the last few years. For the longest time, I've used it to host static sites, but as Netlify's matured, and especially in the last year or two, month on month, Netlify is adding more and more features, and the same with GitHub. They're adding more integrations into their CI and CD flow. It's really, really good. What I'm going to show you here is Netlify, which is a bit more built out. It's a bit more mature than GitHub Pages, but that's not to say GitHub Pages isn't great. I would definitely recommend playing around with that, and arguably it's probably simpler to get on with than Netlify, so it probably doesn't really need that much of an explanation. So what we'll do is we'll jump into setting up a Netlify project, and I'll start to show you around and some of the benefits of it. So let's get started. So if we go to netlify.com, and in the top right, if we go to login, we can see the Netlify dashboard and all my projects, and we can search through them, but what we're going to do is we basically host a new site. So if we go to new site from Git, and you have three options for Git repositories. I mostly use GitHub, so I'm going to be using a project from a repo on my GitHub profile. So if we click that, it should try and connect us to GitHub. And we go here, and what we're going to do is we're going to try and get to this project here on my profile called Svelte GIF, which is basically using the Svelte front-end framework and using the Giphy API to create kind of a search fun app to recreate Giphy. So if we go here and we type in Svelte, and we click that, and what we're going to do is in here we're going to add the build command, which will basically be telling Netlify what to do every time I make a change. So every time I make a change to the app or the repo, it will continuously deploy this project to its server. So any changes I make, it'll also change it on the website as well that it's going to deploy. And what we want to say is we want it to publish the public folder, which is where all the built assets will be for this app. So you can also have a look at some advanced build settings if we had a netlify.toml file on the project. But for now, we'll just deploy this. So as you can see, this is a new dashboard now for the deployment process. So if you go to deploy here and click this process, we can actually watch the deployment process taking place in front of us. And it basically SSHs into the server and has a look to see what it's doing. So you can actually go and have a look, and you can see here it says the site is live, it's time stamped, and what we'll do is we'll go back up here and we'll go have a look. So it randomly names each project some crazy names. So this is Trusting Perman. You can obviously go and change that. So if we go to overview, and if we go to site settings, and then if we click change site name, and then if we change it to Svelte Giphy app Rooney, who cares? Save that, and then you can see that is now the name of the website. Now if we click that, there we go. So we've got the Svelte app open now. It's deployed, and it probably took a minute to do, if that. And if we go here and we type in hello, and there we go, it's working perfectly fine. So as you can see, this app is using an API, But what if you wanted to host your own API and create your own endpoint? Well, 2 years ago you weren't able to do that. But as each month goes on, like I mentioned earlier, Netlify keeps adding amazing features. And one of the amazing features they've added is Netlify Functions. Now, Netlify Functions is a way of getting a backend on your apps. So I've been using it to host GraphQL endpoints, and other people have been using it to host React sites and do all kinds of cool stuff. As more and more features get added, people get more and more creative and they're able to add more and more interesting things. Now, one thing to note is that it isn't fully hosting your backend, if that makes sense. What it's doing is it's able to run functions using AWS Lambda, which is a feature that AWS has, and it's basically a wrapper around it with something called Netlify Lambda. Now, you can basically get a database that's off the site, reference it in your endpoint here, and run it. So you can have an app, a static app, like the Svelte Giphy, for example, and you can have an endpoint that you've hosted here with a database that's off the site. And together, you can create an app for absolutely free. The only thing that you have to pay for is the domain name if you want a custom domain name. So imagine this, you have an app idea that you want to test out, you have Netlify now to go in and host it and test it and play around with it and even market it. And all you need to do is buy a domain name. You can sign up for a database somewhere else and then just reference it, and there you go, all set up. If you do ever want to get a portfolio site or any other kind of app idea, some small to medium sized app, I would highly recommend Netlify, especially Netlify Functions. There are some other cool features as well on Netlify. So obviously you've got the deployments, which we've seen. You can get different plugins, but it also has its own authorization system. So similar to ZeroAuth or something like that, you can now authenticate your apps using a Netlify Identify toolkit. You also have the Forms API on Netlify, so you can get forms on your static sites working. So if you, for example, host a portfolio site, if you're learning to code and you're looking for your first job and you want to have it so that you have a form that they can contact you on, you can do this with the Netlify Forms. It also has A/B testing. So if you want to test certain features on your app between different audiences, you can do that. You can also have a look at analytics. Now with analytics, they do charge you, but you can always just hook in Google Analytics and use that for your app instead. Now, there is a whole host of features on this site. It is almost too numerous to count, and it's starting to go into the range of Google Cloud and AWS kind of feature sets. Like that amount, you probably will need to get Netlify certified to be able to handle all these features in a year's time. It is an amazing job that they're doing. So if you do have a static website or an app idea that you want to host, jump onto Netlify and get started today. So hopefully that was useful and aids in your hosting needs going forward. Do like and subscribe to this video. Otherwise, I've been Harry and this has been Curious Byte.